and you will understand how important Guided Pathways is to our college and to our community, but most of all to our students. So President Knight.
Thank you, Cherie. How many have not heard of Guided Pathways? Shouldn't be anybody in this room, especially since Cherie mentioned it earlier in her talk today. But I just want to say the reason why we're here is because of folks like Jeanette. And Guided Pathways is going to help us even more, make more students like Jeanette successful. But she's just a wonderful example of what's going on at Clark. And we're so proud of you. And I get to sit on the interviews and meet these young candidates for all the academies, and Jeanette did a wonderful job in the interview process for Representative Jamie Herrera, and so we're going to work on this. I think prep school is an option. You know, I didn't get when I went to West Point, I did not get my a nomination right off the bat. I think I've talked to you about the prep school already, but prep school is a wonderful option, and so we can. I know Toby will we'll try to work on something to get to the prep school, so because I know you're going to make it there. So Guided Pathways. So why are we doing Guided Pathways? Well, for many, many decades, community colleges were all about open doors, all comers. Come on, we don't care what you do. We've got all these classes, literally hundreds of programs out there. Come in, and we'll accommodate whatever you want, without much structure or guidance. We didn't have systems in place. So they came, and guess what? Our enrollment increased. Clark College was the most over-enrolled community college in the state of Washington up to about 5 or 6 years ago. We were 3,000 full-time equivalent students over what we're getting funded for at the state. We were way over our target. If we lost a student, they walked away, so what? We have another student coming in the back door. We had enough funding to cover that. Things were just wonderful, except for our students weren't all finishing, they weren't completing, but we weren't as concerned about that. I mean, we talk about being students, we're here for the student, and we really are here for the student, but we didn't have structures and systems in place that really helped that student. And so our mission says Clark College in service to community guides the operative word. We actually developed this mission statement before we even took on Guided Pathways. I think it was fate. But guiding is the real key thing. We want to guide them to their educational and professional goals. So what does guide mean? We need to provide them a lot more structure and help to make that professional or educational goal. And so Guided Pathways is about putting that structure in where the customer really is why we're there, and putting those systems in place to make that customer successful. Here's what's changing in our role under the Guided Pathways. We need to not just serve the community interest, but now serve what our community needs are. So what does that mean? We look at data. We just don't open up classes. Faculty wanted to open up a class. We'd say, okay, what is it? Another humanities class or whatever? Sounds good. Let's open it up, do it. But was there a need out there? Not necessarily so. Now we're not opening up classes or programs unless there's a demand or need for that. We look at data. We use our institutional research office, say, okay, it sounds good to open up let's just say the wind farms are building out in the east. We need to develop folks that can work on those windmills. But lo and behold, the data doesn't show there's going to be a whole lot of jobs out there for that. Oh, by the way, Columbia Gorge was going to put together a small program. We know Arch Miller put together one. Even though it sounded good, it was a nice thing to do. Folks told us we should start up a program on that. When we looked at the data, there weren't going to be that many jobs. There wasn't really that need to put that program together. On the other hand, when we look at advanced manufacturing, there's a huge need. There's a huge demand. And the other thing we look at is does it have a good paying job? And so advanced manufacturing is one of those areas where there's a huge demand. And so I got to ask the question about what really is advanced manufacturing? Well, it's a combination of welding, machine technology, program logic control, all those things combined in one, because a lot of the businesses are wanting those multi-talented individuals to work in their organizations, not just a welder, not just someone that knows how to work and mill some machine parts, but a combination of all those. So really that's what advanced manufacturing is. We saw a need, so we're developing in that, and that's what it's going to be out at Clark College at Boschma Farms. Demand for post-secondary credentials. I'll show you a slide here in just a minute that there's a huge demand in that. Since the recession ended, 99% of the jobs that were created after the recession went to folks that had education above high school. So you've got to, back in the old days, maybe when some of you went through, you didn't have to have that education, that credential. Nowadays you do. Cost of college education continues to go up. You know, we're getting less and less state funding, and more of the burden's being put on the student. So we've got to make sure when that student comes here, they get what they want and get it done as quickly and less expensively as possible. First generation, you've heard this over and over. 72% of our students are first generation students. That means they're the first in their family to go and graduate from college. I was one of those students, but Jeanette's one of those students. There are many of them, and there's folks in this room that way. You don't have that help at home, and you take it for granted, but there aren't folks that telling you what you need to do to prepare for class, what you need to do to register for class. You're kind of on your own. Those are folks that are on the lower socioeconomic part of the ladder also. First generation, we need to make sure those are successful. The folks that have means, the ones that are higher up on the socioeconomic ladder, they get to go to a four-year college. They get to go to a four-year university. They got parents that have the funds. They have means and funds. Typically, they're white. I mean, that's generally what it is. They're white folks, but they're the ones that get to go on to the four-year college universities. The community colleges are taking care of those that are in the lower socioeconomic ladder. Not all of them, but a majority of them are, and they're first-generation students. That's the 99% I was talking about of the 11.5 million jobs. Out of 11.6 million jobs created after the recession, 11.5 of them, you had to have some post-secondary education. Again, of the 5.6 million jobs that were lost with workers at high school diploma or less, only 80,000 of those new jobs they can get. And you've got to get that college education. It doesn't have to be a four-year degree, though. It can be a certificate or something else. Again, what this shows right here is in Southwest Washington. You see we're below, except for the percent of high school graduates are higher, but as far as associate degrees and bachelor's degrees, we're below the state average in attainment. We've been there many years. That was one of the reasons why WSUV, we got funding for WSUV and implemented WSUV, because we've got less and less folks in our region that are obtaining associate degrees or bachelor's degrees in Southwest Washington. I think the only other area that's at our level or lower is Yakima region. So Clark College and Washington State University of Vancouver are really the only games in town. You go up to Puget Sound, there are colleges and universities stepping all over each other. Again, look what's happening in the different ethnic groups here. None of them are attaining what we need. So the whites are doing well, better, the Asians, but the African Americans, Latinos, the multi-race students, not there. That's not acceptable. We need to get them up above. So I spoke to the college on January 5th about where we're at, what this Guided Pathways is all about. But right now, only 1 in 4 of our degree certificate seeking students complete. That sounds horrible. 25% of our students that come to Clark are completing. And we rank as one of the top 150 community colleges in the country. So it's not like we're out of line. We're actually doing better than most community colleges around the country. But 25% are actually getting their degree certificate. Now there's another 25% that actually transfer to a four-year college and university and they get their degrees. So about 50% of our students actually move on and get their degree or certificate. But we only get credit for 25% because many of them, like my son, Scott, who came to Clark College for 2 years, did not get a degree, but he went to Portland at Warner Pacific University and got his four-year degree. So I get no credit for him. We get no credit on the database for him getting a degree or certificate, but he completed his four-year degree in just over 4 years. Anyway, he completed his degree and got it. So, you know, my family, and I just came back from a reunion in South Carolina on Wednesday, and I have 3 brothers. I was the only one in my family that went to college. You know, my parents didn't go. My dad graduated from high school. My mother didn't even graduate from high school. She grew up in Scotland. And I was fortunate because the structure I got, it wasn't guided pathways, but I had a friend who was going to West Point, and his dad talked to me about going to West Point. And fortunately, he talked to me about going and encouraged me and helped me apply. That was a structure that I got, and I needed that structure. And I had a lot of structure at West Point where you didn't really have much choice what you took. It was the best thing for me. But I was very, very fortunate. My three brothers didn't have a friend like that. They're still down at the lower end of the socioeconomic ladder. It breaks my heart to see that they did not get their college education, didn't move on. They're good brothers, love them to death, but they didn't have that opportunity because they didn't have that structure. They didn't go to a community college. They didn't get that education. And so I see myself as an example, my family example. I was fortunate. It wasn't through a community college, but because of the structure that I was given and provided through a friend and through West Point. Here's a quote we've heard. It kind of hits home. Every college is perfectly designed to produce precisely the results it is currently getting. So we can't stay in place. We cannot continue to do things as normal, which is why guided pathways, where we think we can provide that system and structure to encourage and help our students become more successful. So let's talk a little bit specifically about guided pathways. Okay, that went back. This is where we want Gabby, the video, please.
Everyone has dreams. She's fascinated by technology. They want to start a business. He's inspired to save lives. Those dreams for a good life and well-paying jobs require education beyond high school. But many American college students don't graduate on time or at all, at a high cost to themselves, their families, and taxpayers. Students who are the first in their families to go to college face an even bigger struggle because no one has gone before them. These students are more likely to be low-income students and students of color. We can do better. Guided Pathways is a nationally recognized research-based approach. It helps students of all ages explore their options and work toward a career, not just a degree. It's challenging to translate interests and skills into a career or understand the education needed to achieve your goals. A student interested in the healthcare field, for example, could earn a 1-year certificate and become a pharmacy technician. Or she could earn a 2-year or 4-year degree and become a nurse. Or she might go to medical school to become a doctor. Many times, students don't know all the options within a career field or how to choose among them. This makes selecting the right classes in the right order difficult. No wonder so many students take unnecessary credits or just give up. With Guided Pathways, colleges are making the choices clearer by grouping courses together in broad fields of interest, like information technology, business, or education. With help from advisors, students select a field and are quickly introduced to all their career options. Students learn critical concepts right away and discover pretty quickly what they do or don't like, saving time and money if it's not the right fit. Research shows the sooner a student begins their journey, the more likely they are to graduate on time, with fewer credits and less debt. As students hone in on a specific career, advisors give them packaged program maps for a clear pathway toward that career. The Guided Pathways approach supports students by exposing them to all their options, including transferring to a university to earn a next-level degree. Washington's community and technical colleges are pursuing Guided Pathways to help students achieve their dreams and launch their careers. As more students graduate and move into their careers, they lift our economy with them. And when our students succeed, our state succeeds. Visit www.sbctc.edu to learn more about how Guided Pathways help students and Washington State succeed. Just type Guided Pathways into the search box.
So any questions before we go into a little detail about the guided pathways? Any questions at all out there? So the business case for guided pathways, and I'll talk in detail on each one of them. Students are now spending more, as I mentioned. The state is cutting back, so the students are taking more and more of a burden. When I got here at the college about 14 years ago, it was 60% funding from the state, and 40% was the burden of the student to pay in tuition. That's completely reversed. Now it's actually about 40% from the state and 60% the student paying for the education. Financial aid tied to making progress, so if they are not making progress, their financial aid will get cut off. So, and we don't want them spending their financial aid money on classes that don't really apply to their path or whether they're going to get a degree or certificate. Many of them, as I mentioned in the past, were taking classes, using financial aid, and then, they change their mind, and they already spent a lot of their financial aid, and then they'll have to use their own money, or they'll just drop out because they can't afford it. Growing competition, online courses, Washington Governors University, Phoenix University, a lot of competition out there, so we've got to get it right. And again, growing accountability. Folks are saying you can't have a graduation rate at 25%. We need to do better, and so we're going to do better. So this is just an example. Very simply, as tuition goes up, you see the red and the blue at the bottom. Tuition continues to go up over the course of time, yet the average median household income is dropping down to $54,000. So increasing costs for education, drop in the median household income causes problems. Less people are going to be inclined to go to work, go to college. They're going to have to go make some money and go to work. Low-paying jobs. So the financial aid piece of this business, why we're doing it. 5% of our students graduate on time. Many of our students are taking way more credits than they need. So if you see here, they're spending 31 more credits. They're paying for 31 more credits than they actually need. They were meandering around, taking courses and classes they thought were cool and neat, and failing, and just taking way too many classes than they needed, so they're spending a lot more money, and it's taking them 3.6 years to get a 2-year degree. So what that breaks out to, just for one additional year, it's costing them an additional $15,000, and then they're not working, where they could be earning roughly $35,000. So it's a $50,000 impact to the student each and every year they take to complete their degree certificate. This is just growing competition. I just showed the two universities that most of our students go to when they transfer. Washington State University is number 1. Portland State is number 2, the cost. And I think our students are smarter. You can get 2 years of your 4-year degree done at Clark College, community college, where the classroom size is 21 to 1, where the teacher actually knows your name, gets to know your name because the classes are small. Our teachers they're dedicated. That's all they do is teach. We're not doing research. They're publishing things to publish or perish, all that. They're just here to teach. By the way, we have a lot of wraparound support services for those students that 4-year college universities don't have. We've got a tutoring center. We have a full health clinic. We've got all sorts of wraparound service to really help that student, guide that student so that they can complete. And they're going to, at the end of 2 years, they can go to Portland State or Washington State University. Fine institutions, they've saved themselves a lot of money. As I told folks at graduation last year, if their parents were paying for their college, they should tell their parents to go buy them a car. They just saved enough to buy a nice car for them. So, but anyway, and they're going to do well. Their degree is going to say the same thing. They'll still be a cougar. And they're going to still graduate with a Portland State degree like everybody else that went all 4 years ago, yet they're going to save themselves a lot of money and probably time also. So, we're being held accountable. Some of our funding, more and more of our funding, there's debate about whether that's working or not, but performance-based funding. So, the state now is allocating 5% of the funding that we get from them on performance. So, completion, number of credits earned, so there's different levels of credits earned. A student earns, if they earn 30 credits or they earn 60 credits, we get points for that, and it goes into a funding formula. So 5% of the funding that we get now from the state is based on performance and completion. That's important. We just want them to complete. It's not just about the money, but we want our students to complete and be successful and go out and get a nice job where they can feed and house their family. So let's see what the college is going to look like in 5 years. What would that really mean in 5 years? Now, we say it's going to take about 5 years to implement guided pathways, but that doesn't mean we're complete. After 5 years, we'll continue to tweak this. It'll be a continuous growth or continuous improvement. But what it really means, personalized student admissions and entry process. Right now, our students come in and they'll see an advisor, Travis, today, and then they'll see, next time they come in, they'll see Joel as an advisor, and next time they come in, they see Carl as an advisor. They don't have that consistency in advising, so the advisors tell them something a little different, they hear something a little different, it's confusing to the student, they're not as successful. So when we talk about personalized student admissions entry process, we want to make sure that we take care of them up front. We want to make sure that they decide on what their career is. What we haven't done in the past is say, okay, what are your interests? And if we don't know what your interests are, I don't know what I want to do, well, let's take a career assessment exam. Let's kind of identify what it is that you have some strengths and interest in. It's sort of like the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, the ASVAB test. When you went into the military, they take it, they assess what your skills are. Oh, you're mechanically inclined or whatever. Well, we do it at the college. Please, Royce, let me finish. Anyway, so that's what we're doing. We're assessing up front, trying in the entry process, and we're also putting in this college success class. So up front, we're going to mandate as part of the guided pathways that they take a college success class. That college success class will tell them not only where the library is, how they can determine what career they're best suited for, but it shows them where the tutoring center is, helps them understand college skills, how to develop their college skills, and decide on their career choice, so that up front they kind of know where they're going to go, and then we get them on this path. So it's very intensive. The intrusive case management gets back to the advising piece. They're going to get one advisor that sticks with that student. That advising is not just one advisor. It's a whole advising process. Faculty are going to be involved in the advising process now more so. So the faculty are going to have faculty advisors in different program areas. We're going to have the advisors in the student affairs area, and we're going to talk to them several times that first year. The first year is so critical. If we get them through that first year, the first quarter, second quarter, they're more inclined to go on. If they stay on line to get their degree and certificate in the first year, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to complete on time, they're going to complete their degree or certificate. So we've got to be intrusive. And some of the models around the country, and as we go to conferences, nobody has enough advisors. Right now we have about 1,000 students per advisor. How can you keep up with all those students? 1,000 students per advisor. And at the national level, they tell you can't hire enough advisors. We'll hire more advisors. Well, that's very costly to hire more advisors. There are things you can do. So examples that we're going to take a look at is some colleges use high school instructors that are working in high schools. They get off at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. They come into the college. We hire them for an hourly wage, saves money,